Surprise, cockbag! There's very few roles that either one of them could switch on, and it would make any sense. You can't put Tom Hanks in Top Gun.
Or Mission Impossible.
Or Far and Away.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yo.
Yeah.
That was deep.
This is episode 200.
Yes, it is.
Whoa!
Yes, it is. Almost 4 years.
4 years!
Of doing podcast content. Now, this is episode 200 of the regular SinCast. We've obviously done many pods.
Many pods.
But yeah, this is a milestone. Like, a lot of podcasts don't get this far, especially weekly ones.
Meanwhile, Joe Rogan is like episode 3,628.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think he's daily, isn't he?
Oh, I don't know. He's also one of the first to ever start, so he's been going longer than anybody else. He just had Ed Snowden on.
Yeah, I saw that one. Did you see that one?
No, I heard it was great.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
200 episodes. We're not doing anything particularly special today.
Well,
but
we're recording on a Saturday, and that's new.
Yeah, we had to do this one early.
So therefore, everybody's drunk.
Everybody is
wasted.
drunk.
Everybody is wasted.
Everybody is so drunk.
This is our wasted
20 in the
voice.
morning.
Yeah.
Hey, that's, you know.
Yeah,
you could be knee deep and...
Hey, in the age of Uber, there's nothing wrong with day drinking anymore, just as long as you don't drive.
We did get something in our P.O. box a couple of weeks ago that was very interesting, and we wanted to read, talk about what we got and what he sent to us.
This is very cool. So we open this up, and it's a sculpture of sorts. It's a 12-pointed star or 6-axis star, and it's very cool. We've got it in the studio right now, and I'll read the note that came with it. Hi, Jeremy, Chris, Barrett, and the rest of the Cinemasins crew. He even spelled my name right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of our employees don't spell my name
That's
right.
correct.
I'm sending you guys a 6-axis star. It's a piece of artwork that my dad makes, which is very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's been featured in a few movies. It's been on the math professor's desk in Good Will Hunting, one of our favorites, where it's framed to be pointing at both Matt Damon and Stellan Skarsgård in the scene where they're arguing and Matt Damon burns the paper. This is a waste of my fucking time.
Yeah.
That's very
cool.
cool.
How easy this is for me? This is a fucking joke.
This is a fucking joke. The other movie, another one of our favorites that it's been in, is Ex Machina. I don't know why I said it like that. Where it's off to the side of Oscar Isaac's computer sitting on his table. I almost jumped out of my seat. This is the person talking. I almost jumped out of my seat when I saw Ex Machina in the theater when the star showed up. Thanks for all the great content, videos, the Ables, podcasts, etc. Hope to be making it to Sin Week in Nashville next year. Longtime viewer, listener, fan, Will Kostick. Will, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you, Will.
Beautiful, beautiful gift.
This is now adorning the SinCast studio. And we have so many odds and ends in this thing. We're going to have a bigger studio at some point.
Besides the duct tape, we have a pervy adult novel called SinCast, subtitles Career Girls Trading Their Bodies for Fame.
That's correct.
Thanks to Frank.
Yes.
And a picture, promotional pictures of the cast of Inherent Vice.
Yes.
Courtesy of Dicer?
Courtesy of Dicer, yes. There's a lot of Dicer stuff in
You
there.
watch something like Dan Patrick's telecast of his radio show, and you see all those fucking trinkets behind him and on his desk, and you're like, God, what a nuisance! But now I know how it happens.
Yeah.
They just have people send them shit, and eventually you run out of space, and you want to put all of it in a place of honor.
Yeah. That's awesome. But thank you, Will. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, awesome indeed. So now we've got to get sour, guys.
Sour this bitch up.
That's right.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
You know what? I'm going to go first on the rant here because I don't have much of a rant.
All right.
You guys always have some, mainly my shit is all about traffic, and I don't want to make this the fucking traffic podcast. But there was something very weird that I noticed the other day. And this is more of a mystery, more of a question than a rant. So in my bedroom, I have a window that faces the other houses that are behind me and across the alleyway and everything. The alleyway is where we take our trash bins at the on Tuesday so that they will get picked up. And so like I woke up at about 7 or so on Tuesday and heard the sounds of people getting in their cars and stuff. Everybody's like going to work and everything. Right across the way, I see this woman walk across the alleyway over to my trash bin and throw something away. And
motherfucker.
And I'm like, okay. And it's something small, so who knows? I didn't go to check and see what it was. The most curious thing though was right after that, she goes over to one of her bins and then pulls it over to the alley so that it gets picked up.
The fuck?
So why would you not just throw your shit into your bin?
I know. I have an answer.
Yeah?
She threw away drugs in your bin.
You think?
She did a joint. She did a joint. she didn't smoke it. She did a joint.
Yeah?
And she threw it in your bin in case the trash people narked on her. They wouldn't be narking on her. They'd be narking on you.
Wow. I have a slightly different explanation. Did you notice, does she have any pets?
I don't think they do.
A lot of times now, what I have done, and it's common practice, especially in like a big city like Chicago, if you're walking your dog, you are expected to pick up after your dog. Now, in more rural areas, you just let them go and all that stuff because nobody's going to be walking on it. In a city, you have to pick up after your dog, and basically, so you got a poop bag. And you go to wherever the nearest receptacle is, whether it's somebody's trash can that they've left out or whatever, or it's a public trash can or something like that. And I have thrown that in, and other people have thrown it in my bin, and it's just kind of a commonly occurrence thing. But if you haven't seen this person walking any dogs or have any pets, then... Well, it's curious.
But the thing that you're talking about, though, is those are people who are just happen to be walking down your street, right?
That's true.
Those are not people who are in your neighborhood who have their own bin across the way.
That's true.
That's the thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
Drugs. You know what? I know how we can solve this. You got to get in that bin next Tuesday and wait for that bitch to come over and open the lid.
Yeah.
And then pop out and say, "Surprise, motherfucker!"
Yeah. Surprise, cockbag.
And then see what she drops.
Yeah.
See what she was gonna throw in there.
I actually thought about that. Like being right behind my my gate. And then when she opens up my trash bin, just open up the gate and like, what are you doing here?
Put your face half over the picket fence and say hi to the
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had recently just been like putting my bin back behind the fence because a lot of times what happens is the trash guys will come over, they'll throw the bags in, and then they'll just kind of distribute the bins wherever, and they don't know where they're putting it. And so, and if you don't catch that, then those people across the way will be like, "Oh, that's my trash can," and just put it back to where they are. And then you're sitting there looking for your trash can.
Yeah.
And so like I've started doing that. But on this particular occasion, I had it out already because I think the trash people didn't even show up last week. Sometimes they see like construction going on with the new houses and stuff. And they're like, well, we can't possibly go down the alleyway now, which is bullshit. That's just an excuse. And they know that most people aren't going to like complain or anything. So I've been doing that, but just to see, I'm just so curious as to what is being thrown in. I may do that.
You're going to have to rear window that shit, man.
Yeah.
Like buy a pair of binoculars.
Right.
Track her progress from inside the house, if possible, all the way around.
And then give her a call.
What would be awesome is if you put some kind of like noisemaker in there, so when she lifts the lid, it's like, like she freaks the fuck out.
Now, is this just the one time that you've noticed this?
Well, there was one other time when I had the bin behind the fence, and I was going to take it out in the mornings just before they showed up, that I heard going across the alleyway, and then it was my neighbor's trash that they threw something in.
Yeah, you're right, dude.
Drugs.
Yeah, it's drugs.
It's drugs.
It's got to be drugs. I would probably say it's not marijuana, but I bet it's drugs.
I bet it's drugs, probably not weed. But also what's funny is that I mean, if the trash guy says, "Hey, I found drugs in this woman's trash," all the woman has to say is, "I put that shit out in that bin last night. My neighbor probably came through and dropped drugs in there."
Yeah, there's no proof there that just because it's in your bin.
What is the trash man's code when it comes to
I don't
this?
think the trash man gives a shit.
Well,
No,
at what point do you have to report? Like, if you find a dead body,
Sure.
Well, yes.
right?
But
then
they're not
what's
gonna-
below that?
They're not opening bags. They're not looking at what they're dumping out.
No,
Yeah.
in fact, I've seen them. They come through and they take that bin and they just just dump it in, and then they don't care what they're throwing in there. They're just dumping it in and moving on.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll go in and take individual bags.
Yeah,
But most of the time it's just like,
Yeah.
just get it. Let's get this done.
I think that dead body thing was a plot point in Men at Work. You remember that?
It was. It was a plot point in Men at
Yeah,
Work.
the Estevez brothers.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that.
That guy looks friggin' dead.
Oh man.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's objectively terrible, but I watched it when I was 14 and I loved it. Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez together, brothers.
Yeah.
For the first and last time. Not the last time.
Yeah.
No, they were
There
both
was-
in Young
They were both
Guns.
in something else.
Didn't Emilio Estevez made some sort of pornographer movie,
Oh,
something like that? I
yeah.
think Charlie Sheen might have been in that.
Anyway.
All right, let's get into some actual angry rants.
All right. This was everywhere. This was in France when I went over there. This is in the U.S. when I went over there, and it's been going on for a fucking month. Pulled up an ET article right now that was posted like 12 hours ago. So this is still ongoing. An Empire Magazine interview, Martin Scorsese says something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the whole thing memorized, but that Marvel movies, the MCU movies, superhero movies, specifically Marvel movies,
Specifically Marvel.
he compares them to theme parks, meaning that they're not cinema.
No,
Quote,
I think he
cinema.
explicitly said they aren't cinema.
Correct. They're not what he considers cinema. They're more akin to theme parks, basically people looking for thrills, well-done stuff, but not a whole lot of meat on the bone. Okay. So everybody freaks out about that. This is just fucking... it's got to be 4 weeks ago when this airs.
I don't think it was quite that long ago, but yes.
Something like that.
Feels
And then
that long
and then it kept going. It kept going about like Marvel versus Martin Scorsese. And it wasn't really the reasonable people having this discussion. It was the fanboys having this discussion. And then there was a weird, like, defense mounted by the cinema people against the Marvel people, but they were way outnumbered. And then a couple weeks after he made those statements, Francis Ford Coppola comes out and says, you know what? I agree. I don't even think that they're just not cinema. He used a word like they're despicable.
Despicable.
They're despicable or something. Yeah, exactly that. And so that reignited everything. And so that kept on going and going and going. These are two of the most legendary 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever directors in the history of cinema. And, now he's walking back his comments a little bit saying that cinema has changed and this is just the new normal. And it's not necessarily that he was deriding them artistically. It's just not what he considers cinema itself. Conceptually, I fall on the Scorsese Coppola bandwagon about this. I think that Marvel movies are perfectly fun. They are a lot of fun. I have loved Marvel movies. I also love theme parks at times, too. And I totally get that comparison. But I'm not here to talk about that. We can if we want to. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm wondering why the fuck this is still a story so far down the road. Do you have a suggestion of why that is?
It just gets clicks. It gets clicks.
That's the oxygen that keeps this flame going?
I wrote once for a website that I won't name, and around the time Google Plus came out, this was their Facebook competitor, which is now completely dead.
Yeah.
And the editor said to me after about a week, man, every story you write about Google Plus gets twice as many reads as any other story. See how many stories you can write about Google Plus. That's
Nice.
what's going on here. And
Nice.
the problem is, the reporter who first posed the question to Scorsese was looking for a clickbait quote, and he got it. Mm-hmm. And then reporters everywhere else started throwing their microphones in front of the James Gunns and Sebastian Stans and Robert Downey Jr.'s of the world to get their take. What do you think about this? And I think movies versus films, right? Theme parks versus cinema is an age-old debate that's always going to rage on, and the super hardcore Marvel fans are going to say, this is art. It's like when Roger Ebert said video games aren't art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's funny to me is watching all the Hollywood types fall all over themselves to praise Scorsese and Coppola for what is essentially a pretty garbage take. Like, yes, they're legends. Yes, they can say whatever they want. To call Marvel movies despicable?
Well, that was Coppola specifically.
Okay, yes, but that's a bad take. If Mel Gibson said
you're right.
we would bury that motherfucker.
Well.
But because it was Coppola, and I think that's pretty fascinating. If you've earned enough clout in film, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Sure.
You can come right out and say, and it's what's fascinating to me is watching even the Marvel actors and directors show deference to Coppola and say he's earned the right to say whatever he wants. I'm waiting for one of them to go, this is film. This is cinema. It's so ridiculous to me. I don't fall on the same side as you. It's ridiculous to me that Scorsese would say that's not cinema, because what I feel like he's saying is you can only make movies about gangsters. But if you make them about superheroes, I can't take that seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's what he was saying. From what I read in the interview.
Well, he's certainly saying I make cinema.
Yeah,
those films are not cinema.
And he's not wrong.
Well, no. Well,
I mean,
he's not wrong about what?
It's like saying, okay, we'll compare it to pop music for a second. Is there any comparison between a Ariana Grande song and a Beethoven sonata? Besides the fact that they are both under the broad category of music.
Well, only one of them won a Grammy. You went Ariana Grande, Beethoven on my ass.
Beethoven has won a lot of Grammys,
but Beethoven is. You pick somebody modern. Pick somebody who's give me Adele.
That is, well, I mean, I think Adele is more akin to Ariana Grande than she is to Beethoven. What I'm saying is that Martin Scorsese has directed and made some of the indelible classics that will be going on, and that film students will be dissecting for years to come. I don't think they'll be dissecting Endgame in any way the same way, other than the fact that it had a greater impact box office wise. Same with Ariana Grande versus Beethoven.
I disagree completely. I think there are people out there who cried at Endgame, who are emotionally impacted, who they would claim their lives have been improved because of these movies. But these movies give them hope.
What's the standard though? Is it quality? Is that the only thing that's differentiating this between what they consider cinema and not?
The reason I want to answer that question. The reason that I brought up something like Beethoven versus Ariana Grande, I realize it's stupid, but there's so much more thought, passion, execution, juggling, getting things together than pooping out a pop song to me, that I think that is the standard of excellence. I have the ability to wrangle all these things together to produce this sublime result. Then
it's a matter of quality. Then it has nothing to do with nothing to do with the definition of the term. It's Scorsese saying, he just basically saying, I don't like these movies more than anything. Him say just a blanket statement, they're not cinema. That's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Because the medium by which we watch this is cinema.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, music, cinemas, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a variety of tastes, and there's going to be movies that Scorsese makes, and there's going to be movies that other people make that aren't the same quality but have that same aspiration. Then we're going to start saying that's a lesser version of cinema just because it's like slightly down the ladder. I mean, I don't get the definition.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I think he chose the words wrong.
Yeah, I agree
he's
with
operating.
That.
I agree with that. I think he just
definition.
should have said it's not my cup of tea, and there would be no blowover. But because he decided to say they're not cinema, and then honestly, I think it would have gone away if Coppola hadn't quadrupled down and used a word that I just think is, the word despicable does not belong in this conversation. That implies evil intent. That implies some measure of destruction of the world or our culture, right?
Yeah,
criminals are despicable.
Yeah.
Films cannot be despicable unless they're like
Human Centipede or something like that.
or
Nymphomaniac Volume 2.
or KKK recruitment video.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I get what he's saying, and I get what you're saying, is that there are different ends of the spectrum in music or in film, and some is intended to more to entertain, and some is intended more to make you think. But I don't think you can say one is better than the other, and certainly both kinds appeal to passionate people. Like, tell Ariana Grande fans that she doesn't put a lot of thought and energy and time and passion into her music, and they'll beat you till you're dead.
No, that's very true.
And I get what you're saying. It's not the same as Beethoven, but it's fucking music, and people love it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with literature. I had a friend who's a writer said, wow, I recently read a book over Christmas vacation. This was a few years ago. And he was like, well, what was it? And at the time, it was the Stieg Larsson, the girl with the dragon tattoo, which is obviously very mass market, right? Mm-hmm. And he looked at his girlfriend and he was like, see, you got to dumb it down. Because he writes literature, you know what I mean? And I took a lot of offense to that because I was like, dude, first of all, it's not like a dumb book. It's actually a pretty well done book. But second of all, just because it's popular doesn't mean, it's not, to your standards. So, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be this debate. And I think I answered my own question on why this has so much legs. I think it's definitely partially due to clickbait. Yeah. I think it's definitely these discussions because even as like-minded as we are, we have some differences on how we take this.
Hot dog sandwich debate.
Yeah.
You can throw that out on Twitter any day, and people on both sides will come racing to your mentions and argue for the rest of the day.
Passionately, too, right?
Yeah, and it's the stupidest fucking thing to argue about.
And one more thing here, too. If you're not calling this cinema, then what do you call it? If you call it a theme park ride, I'm sorry, that's a shitty theme park ride.
Yeah,
if I'm going to Avengers Endgame and I don't, exactly. I guess there's a way at some point theaters could do something like that, right? They've tried like different
smell-o-vision.
They've tried those type of things and to varying degrees of success, but. I mean, to me, it's then what do you classify it? And I do believe he just used the wrong word. If he had just said, they're not my thing, I don't think these are high works of art or whatever. Of course, everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, I totally agree. They're not that. They're not what those. They're not that.
Yeah.
But he said cinema, and now we're arguing over the fucking definition of the word. Yeah. And we can't argue that cinema has a fucking definition.
Yeah. I mean, one last thing on this. How much clout do we give? I'm going to make a music comparison again. How much clout do we give somebody who has a track record as superior as somebody like Martin Scorsese? And I'll ask it in this context. When Quincy Jones was doing his Scorched Earth thing about a year ago or something like that, where he was just saying whatever the fuck he wanted to say, he was asked about current pop and like how it's constructed, how it's distributed and stuff like that. And he was like, those motherfuckers don't know what they're doing because nobody is coming from the perspective of making a song. Now, this is literally what he's saying. They're not getting into songwriting. They're programming in their beats, they're putting in their sounds, and then they're putting their vocals on top of it. And when you listen to old Quincy Jones productions, Michael Jackson in the early days and Stevie Wonder and things like that, you can tell there is a lot bigger difference than what you hear right now. There's key changes, there's syncopated beats, there's layerings and stuff like that. So when he says something like that, I tend to listen to him, and I tend to agree with him qualitatively hearing what I hear. Same thing with Scorsese. If he says, it's not like he hasn't made a movie in, 3 decades or anything like that. He's still churning out work. Like, how much do we say, well, maybe I should look at it from his perspective because he's probably got something to say.
Well, that was my original point, was if Uwe Boll had come out and said this, everyone would have jumped on him. Everyone. Because he's got a whole career of making shit films. It was because this was a god of filmmaking that said this that it got so much run, because everybody respects his films, everybody knows his place, and for him to say to probably misspeak the way that he did makes everybody go, what? He just said what? And then, of course, that's why nobody's attacking him, because you can't. Like, he's earned it. Both of them have. And so there's no point in Robert Downey Jr. going, oh, this is cinema, Martin. Let's have coffee. We're going to talk this out. There's no point in that.
Yeah.
But I do think, outside of just this conversation, I do think, in general, the older famous people get, the more bad takes they seem to have.
That
also,
is true.
It also, too, how many people who were older than Quincy Jones heard stuff that he did and said wasn't that good.
That I think is
That's
the point.
interesting.
I think these Marvel movies are literally changing what cinema is right now. And in 20 years looking back, it's going to look like Star Wars did, in terms of the impact it's going to have.
And that's actually what he says on this most recent interview that I just put up. Like, this is the new way of doing things. I haven't delved deep into that article, but he may be saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and again, at the root of all of this is still this sort of cancel culture that we're in, where we want to take any soundbite that sounds a little off and run that person into the ground if we can. Usually it's over in about a day or two, though. So I agree with your rant originally about this has been like 3 weeks now. Like, let's let it go, for fuck's sake.
We can all agree that Coppola is being an asshole, right?
Well, I mean, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Coppola's made some shitty movies.
And only one of his wines is any good.
Yeah, when's the last one he made, though? Because he's been...
He did that 2011 thing.
No, he did do that. That wasn't cinema. I can say that.
And that movie was despicable.
Yeah, and it was despicable. He did something called like
a sci-fi name.
Tiesto or some.
Twixt.
Oh, Twixt.
Yeah.
So, and that was what, 2013, something like
Twixt
that?
was 2011.
Yeah.
It says he's working on his big magnum opus now.
Megalopolis.
I want to see it.
So he did Tetro, and then he did Twixt.
Tetro is the movie that I was thinking of.
He did Youth Without Youth, and then before that, really, it was The Rainmaker and Jack.
He for years just sort of, because I think this is another sort of offshoot of this conversation, is that a lot of these directors are having to deal with the studio system that's not like what they dealt with in the 70s.
That's true.
In the 70s, studios were studios. They weren't owned by a lot of like big corporations like they are now. Like, Fox got bought out by News Corp and like just every Universal's Comcast and all they're not the studios anymore. They're Comcast and they're News Corp and everything. And so like Coppola for the years has just been railing about, I haven't made movies because I have to deal with that bullshit. And I understand that.
And
Yeah,
plus
that
he's
makes
rich
sense.
as shit.
Yeah.
You only like one of his wines, the Pinot?
No, I actually have only had 3 of them. The Merlot is really good.
Merlot is good, yeah.
I didn't like the other 2.
I have a feeling that has more to do with it than him not being able to make a movie under the studio system. Though.
Yeah.
That he's pretty well set and he's got his wine.
He does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I have 2. I'm going to try and make 2 half rants because I can't let either one of them go. A positive and a negative. I am onto a new wine, and I'm not going to brag about it or tell you what it is because it's cheap, and it's cheap. But I like it, and
Nothing wrong with cheap wine.
I like saving money, right? So I have switched to this wine. This is about 4 weeks ago. Neither of my local grocery store department managers have gotten wise to the fact that someone has started buying this cheap wine because I buy it's a boxed wine. I buy one box. A few days later, I buy another box. A few days later, I buy the last box on the shelf, and it's a week and a half before they restock it, and it's just 3 boxes. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you how to do department management in a grocery store because they inventory the shit out of that. The computer does most of the work for you. You should be, if you're a good department head, you should be looking at your sales report every day to see how often or how much you sold. This motherfucker, both of them at Publix and Kroger, they're just getting there at the end of the week going, oh, we sold all 3 of those. I better order 3 more. And so I had to drive 20 fucking miles to a Kroger or the next town over to find this wine because these dipshits can't adapt and do their job. And I worked in this industry. I know how easy it is to follow the sales trends and go, oh, people are buying this now. I better stock it more. Assholes.
The next time you buy it, you should just grab it and go by the manager and just stare at him.
I'm actually...
And underline the name of it.
I think I'm going to just go in there and request it. Say, hey, I'll buy this every other day if you stock more of it. The other rant is a happy rant. For time to time, now, I'm a Starbucks guy and like to go to get my Starbucks. And they have sandwiches, and maybe once every couple of weeks, I'll get one of those sandwiches.
Are they any good?
They're better than McDonald's. You know how I like my McMuffins. So the one I like to get at Starbucks is a sausage, egg, and cheese on a English muffin. And it's pretty good. Better than McDonald's. For reasons, out of my routine the other day, I ended up at a Dunkin' Donuts. And I was hungry. And I ordered one of their breakfast sandwiches. Sausage, egg, and cheese croissant. Oh! Changed my life. Now, this is what they do at Starbucks. You order, I want that sandwich. They pull out this cooler shelf. It's wrapped in plastic. They take it out of the plastic. They put it in this high-speed confectionery oven. And a minute later, beep, beep, it's done. They hand it to you. At Dunkin', they have all of the sandwich elements separately laid out. They have, and so when you order a sandwich, they take the croissant, put it through the crisper, take it out, put an egg thing on there, put the sausage patty on there, put the cheese on there, run it through again to get a little bit of melty. My God.
Yeah.
Best breakfast sandwich I've ever had at any kind of a chain restaurant.
Interesting.
Blew my fucking mind.
This is actually my go-to. My Dunkin' Donuts is my go-to.
And have you had this sandwich?
I have.
It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, okay.
You don't like it?
No, I mean, it's fine. Starbucks, I think, has subpar sandwiches if this is relatively so great.
Yes.
But I agree. It's a tasty sandwich.
Yeah. Have you had the other ones?
I've had, a bunch of stuff.
All right, good.
Unfortunately. Dunkin' is not sponsoring this episode.
Well, I have, no, they are not. But after having one, I have now drove out of my way twice to get this Dunkin' sandwich because I liked it so much.
And then you can pick up your wine from the...
Yeah, pick up my wine from the next town over. I'm just saying, do your fucking job, man. It's not hard. They got 6 department heads in each store. All you have to do is pay attention to the wine. Who's selling, who's buying wine. Yeah. Do it. Lazy fuck.
All right, are we doing some recommends and warns?
Yes, let's.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
Yes.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and recommend Dolomite Is My Name.
Damn it, I wanted to watch that. You must have watched that like last night.
I watched it part way last night and finished it this morning.
All right.
Yeah, this is a showcase for Eddie Murphy, sort of his, I guess his comeback trail, because he was in the New Comedians in Car Getting Coffee, and he's doing this. He's got a Coming to America sequel coming out, all that. He's going to be on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
For the first time in like ages.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there, but this is a good sort of comeback role for him as Rudy Ray Moore, the titular Dolomite. And it's kind of like a lot of biopics. We see him at his lowest, and then what his idea is, and then how he jumps to fame. But it's just so fun. I don't know what it is that Craig Brewer directed this. I don't know what he did in this particular biopic that's completely different from most biopics. Maybe it's because it cuts out, like, maybe it's because Rudy Ray Moore's life isn't like a lot of these. It's not like filled with this like drug downfall or a lot of those tropes that we see in this movie. It's a lot like Ed Wood in some ways. But yeah, it shows him at the beginning. Now, I was talking to Barrett before this. I don't actually really understand what his new thing he was doing on stage, why that became so successful in his neighborhood, but I'm assuming it's because I'm a white dude. And so like there was a point where he's like emceeing, and he would introduce bands, and he would introduce this Bill Taylor band. Craig Robinson plays Bill Taylor in this. And he would introduce them at clubs, and he would tell these really dumb jokes, and nobody's laughing and everything. And the club owner's like, dude, you went over your 5 minutes and everything, and just, and it's not very good. And so his idea, because he works at a record store, which has sort of a radio station in the back. Snoop Dogg plays the DJ.
Nice.
The very
Pimpin' hosing clock in the grip like my name was Dolomite.
There you go. The very beginning of this movie has Rudy Ray Moore trying to get one of his songs on the radio, talking to the Snoop Dogg DJ and everything. And the beginning of this is classic Eddie Murphy, where he's playing con man.
Oh, nice.
And it's so funny. Like it's back into the old days and everything with him. And you're instantly brought into this movie from the very beginning because of what he's trying to do. He's like, come on, get this. So, it's like he gets into that Eddie Murphy thing. He's like, man, I play this song, everybody drops dead. And then it's like, if I play, like, every time I play this song now, I have to warn people because they have to call the ambulances. And so like, he at this record store, he sees this homeless guy walk in, and the homeless guy starts telling this big story about a man named Dolomite and this guy Willie Green and all this other stuff. And Rudy Ray Moore's idea is to go to a homeless community and have them tell their stories, and then record them, and then bring them back to his house, and then sort of tell those same stories, but with rhymes and with attitude and everything. So like he got on stage, the next time he got on stage, he looks like a pimp at this point. He's like dressed on these colors and the hat and the cane and everything. And everything he says is kind of like what we see in the trailer, right? Like, my name is Rudy Ray Moore is my name, and fucking up motherfuckers is my game. And it's like all that, and everybody's just eating it up. So like, he starts making albums, and people around, like there's a point where when he tries to sell this movie Dolomite, when he finally, because they go and watch a movie with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. That's the front page is what it's called. And it's him, it's Mike Epps, Craig Robinson, and Titus Burgess from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. They're all like sitting there watching this movie in a sea of white people. and they're like, man, sitting there, man, this isn't funny, man. There's nothing. There's no titties in it or nothing. And so like Rudy Ray Moore decides, I want to be on that screen, man. I want to do movies and everything. And so when he goes and tries to pitch doing a movie about Dolomite, the people he goes to are like the people who finally end up coming around on his comedy records. And they're like, well, yeah, you can do this, but man, if this fails, we own your whole catalog at this point. And he's determined to do it. And he says, you have to do this. You have to sell a movie to more than the 5 blocks out here and everything. He's like, well, every town in America, there's 5 blocks just like this one, and they'll come and watch.
Because he's in LA right now.
Yeah,
right?
He's in LA. He came from Arkansas, and he goes to LA. And so you see sort of how driven he is to go through all this and everything. He goes to a local black theater, and he finds a writer. Keegan-Michael Key plays the writer Jerry Jones.
Nice.
So he finds a writer, and he finds and then he's like, he's trying to find actors, so he finds actors locally and everything, and he goes to a strip club looking for women who will be nude on screen. It's like the first one he asks is a stripper, and she's like, all you porn people always coming in here. It's like, this is not porn, it's nudity, and but it's artistic, and she walks off. But then at the strip club they find the Wesley Snipes character, and I can't remember his actor's name. I'll look it up real quick. Which is Wesley Snipes in this movie. This is his best performance in ever.
Oh, wow. Really?
I mean, I don't
what
think
else would
I don't think Wesley Snipes has ever been able to be like a character. Really, he's always been Wesley Snipes.
That's true.
Except
for Demolition Man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Demolition Man. Hey, Demolition Man, he's a character for sure.
That's true. Simon
Phoenix.
Yeah, Simon Phoenix. He plays D'Urville Martin. D'Urville Martin is a guy who was in Rosemary's Baby, and he's throwing.
He was an actual actor, right?
Yeah, he was the elevator guy in Rosemary's Baby, but he's acting like he's done some real shit, you know, like, and so like there's a great scene with him and Eddie Murphy and everybody, and, you know, Rudy Ray's trying to get him in this movie and everything, and Derville's got some good points. He's very standoffish at first, but it's a great scene. I won't ruin that one, but like, great scene. They finally, of course, they do get him, and they offer him to direct as well, which really like gets him on board and everything. And then after that, it's all about the making of the movie and everything, and it's just fun. It's I would highly recommend this.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I'm going to be checking this out.
I wanted, as soon as I saw yesterday, I think was when I realized it had gone on Netflix. I was like, "Oh, I got to watch that," but I didn't have enough time between then and today. Which is good, because I was going to make that my recommender, Warren, and you obviously were doing the same thing. And so
you were making that 20-mile drive to get wine.
I was, and also I got sucked into a movie I've never watched all the way through, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
you'd never watched Apocalypse Now all the way through.
I did not consider it a stack of shame movie, because I have seen scenes in this movie a bunch, specifically scenes from the end. But I had, speaking of Coppola, I had horrifically miscategorized this movie in my mind. And I was under the mistaken impression that it was all this psychedelic, weird Brando cult shit.
Oh.
And it's not. It's Martin Sheen's movie.
Yeah.
And his journey all the way through. And that's the stuff, the first 2/3 is the stuff that I've seen very little of, which adds so much context to the end. And I was pretty enthralled. I started out enthralled at how young Martin Sheen and Lawrence Fishburne look.
Yeah. Fishburne's like 18.
I know. He's even credited as Larry Fishburne in the movie, but I had to double take to be sure it was even him. And then he started talking. I was like, oh, well, that's Fishburne. And then just this sort of harrowing journey down the river, and the more you learn about this guy he's going to kill, and then you learn about the guy who went before him who never came back, and it just builds all this tension so that when you get to this iconic scene of Brando, I'm blown away by the light and shadow in that scene.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's Brando or Coppola who's really doing the work there, because I feel like Coppola... Is it Coppola or Coppola?
It's Coppola.
Coppola. I'm just going to call him Coppola.
I was about to do my it's Coppola thing.
I'm glad. I have a sticking point on his name for some reason. I'm sure he set up the lights, but there are moments in this scene where Brando's character is moving, and like just a cheekbone will be in the light, and then it'll dip back into shadow, and then he'll bend his head down, and then whole bald head will be in the light, and it's fucking mesmerizing. I feel like I want to hug this movie and apologize for miscategorizing it for 25 years. And I'm not exactly sure how I got that impression, because the end is a little trippy. The end is a little psychedelic. And I guess I just felt like the whole movie was that, when instead that's really just the capper. I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you saw that
me
all the way
too.
through.
I had never seen it all the way through, and now I want to watch it again a lot.
There's 3 different versions now. There's the I don't know which one you saw. How long was yours?
I think I saw the redo.
The Redux?
Yes.
3.5 hours?
Yes.
Okay. So there is the original, which is I think 2:15, 2.5. Redux is 3.5. Did you have you probably did. The last version I saw, I bought this on 4K. It was another one of these 4K movies that I watched. And the director's cut is at 3 hours exactly now. But there's also like this, I had never seen Redux, and Redux, I am assuming put in this scene where he runs into a bunch of French nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a big, huge dinner scene, and like he meets this girl and all this stuff.
They hate Americans too.
They hate Americans, yes. And I was like, wow, this is, and I've got Redux too. I want to see what else he possibly could put into this, but there was a lot more with Duvall's surfboard getting stolen and everything. Like, I don't think in the original they went to, after they stole it, it was
Yeah.
I don't think there wasn't anything else after that.
No.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe no. In the original, maybe Duvall in his helicopter is going around looking for a surfboard.
Oh, I can't tell because I've seen the original all the way through probably 3 or 4 times, and then I've seen parts of the Redux.
Yeah.
So now it's all getting all
It's kind of sad that there's this many versions now. Like, and now we have to figure out which one is the definitive. This one says director's cut. But
the same thing happens with his Godfather movies too, because now we have that like sequential cut.
Godfather Saga, which I haven't been able to find on a disc.
I can't find it either. I've been looking for years and years and years.
But you were talking. This is the thing that you were talking about Brando being in shadow and everything. I think it's the grocery clerk's line that he finally shows up, and I love that line too. He's like, "No, you're neither. You're an errand boy sent by grocery clerks here to collect a bill." You know, and it's just you don't know it's so. I don't know what it is about it. It's so enthralling because you don't know what's going to happen to him. Kurtz is a creature of whim. He could kill that guy in an hour or just leave him alive for no reason, just based on wherever his headspace is at. So you're feeling it with him, like Martin Sheen in this cage this whole time at the end. But yes, the build up to this, the whole like going down the river and like being unable to say where they're going and him reading the dossier and everything. That's where Apocalypse Now is like just
when they have those skirmishes, like at one point they're just going down the river and all of a sudden missiles are coming at them like crazy, and then like later it's like tiny little arrows and like Martin Sheen's making fun of the arrows, and then dude gets impaled by a fucking spear. So that's the part that was missing for my brain to make this movie make sense or make me want to watch it. And I'm so sorry it took me so long.
No, that's awesome.
But I loved it.
My favorite part is when Charlie Sheen is going down the river and he crosses Martin Sheen and they say, "I loved you in Wall Street."
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's in Hot Shots.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2 has been airing on HBO or something a lot lately, and I've been who is the woman in that?
Valeria Galino.
Yes,
Valeria Galino.
God
I
bless
love
her.
I love her.
I love her. She's a fine filly.
Yeah, she is. She's a fine filly.
So also on Netflix is this movie that I got very hyped for. Steven Soderbergh directed it. It's got Meryl Streep, Gary Oldman, Antonio Banderas. I keep going. Sharon Stone, David Schwimmer, Jeffrey Wright, Will Forte, Chris Parnell, the latter two. And
Jesus.
Nothing. James Cromwell, Melissa Rauch from Big Bang Theory, Robert Patrick, Larry Wilmore, and on and on and on.
Oh, cow.
It's called The Laundromat, and it's about super rich people finding ways to remain super rich. And Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas play these shrewd lawyers that represent the super rich in Panama City, Panama, and offshore banking and stuff like that. And so when I wrote the agenda for this, I said, this is a recommend, because I had watched 10, 15 minutes of the movie, and it starts off beautifully. There's this one shot of Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas explaining everything, very much like The Big Short. Like explaining how the world works and everything. Gary Oldman has this wonderful German accent. Antonio Banderas has an Antonio Banderas accent. And they're explaining all this stuff, and it's really, really exciting. Then it cuts to Meryl Streep, who's married to James Cromwell, and then there's a nice little repartee going on there, and then a inciting incident happens, and it's filmed beautifully. And I had to turn it off at that point, and I was like, God damn, this has already like got my interest. And then I watched the rest of it. And the rest of this movie, man, is trying to be The Big Short, I think. But it's also like trying to be almost an anthology. It cuts to like the two guys will introduce, they'll be like, well, what about our client? This. And they'll do what feels like a 20, 25 minute vignette on this person and their family and all that stuff and how the money works and all that stuff. And then it'll bring it back, and then it'll go into another thing, and then it'll bring it back.
Sounds very
and then it'll bring
anthology like.
Yeah. And then the Meryl Streep character, who was the driving force of this whole thing, like gets marginalized and basically like doesn't come back until like towards the end. And like her character her character arc doesn't really pay off from this inciting incident. And I was like, I've heard Oscar buzz for Gary Oldman in this movie. Like, I've heard nothing but good shit on this movie. Turns out, yeah, I'm not in the minority. Like, there are people that really don't like this movie. They find it very, like, way too segmented. There's no, I mean, the cinematography is great. Soderbergh does Soderbergh stuff. I don't think he shot on iPhones for this one. But yeah, the whole story is just garbled. And it ends on this very preachy moment of, hey, we should not let people do this anymore. I'm like, yeah. If you had made a better movie, I would be writing a fucking congressman right now.
Yeah, seriously.
But or doing something,
because that'll help.
Yes, that'll help. But, I mean, there are movies that are like this that are inspirational or that get you mad, like The Big Short, where you're just like incredulous about like, and The Big Short almost says that this is going to happen again, right? At the end, like, this is bound to happen, maybe before you think.
There's a whole segment at the end where, like, where Steve Carell's like, they're going to do what they always do. They're going to blame immigrants. They're going to blame poor people and all that. And then Gosling comes in with his narration, but that's not what happened.
No, that's right.
And then he goes through all this whole thing, like, people were sent to jail and all that. And he's like, actually, no, none of that happened. And then so, like, yeah, that's sort of the idea, is that every time that something like, big happens like that, they have to blame other people.
Yeah, and that's the end of that movie, and now I remember it. It gets you indignant. You're like, hold on. We have to be more aware of this stuff. We have to call people out for doing that stuff. And I think people, since that movie and since the recovery and all that stuff, have forgotten that. And maybe this movie is trying to remind them of that. It's not specifically about the stock market overall, but it's just about, how everything is consolidated to very few people. And it's clumsily done, which is weird for a Steven Soderbergh movie, especially one with this cast. I'm a sucker for like a great cast. And this was, and everybody's very good. Meryl Streep is like a dynamite performance. Gary Oldman does very well. Antonio Banderas has gotten into this Antonio Banderas. Yeah. Where it's almost Puss in Boots. Yeah. Like, everything is punctuated with a very deep voice at the end. Yeah. And especially when he's doing like intros, narration and stuff like that. It's just like he's falling in love with his own voice. So, I mean, the performances are very, very good, but yeah. There is a nice little Will Forte, Chris Parnell moment in here that's pretty funny. But.
All right.
Just tell me who you want me to find.
Yeah, it's amazing. He does that. It brings it back. I would say that this is a Wreck-A Warren with more emphasis on the Warren.
Ooh.
Okay. The laundromat.
Okay.
The laundromat.
So we have high recommends for Dolomite Is My Name and Apocalypse Now. And we have
breaking news.
Yeah. And we have a Wreck-A Warren for the laundromat.
I'm so glad. I will try to get through my stack of shame and shit like that. And I think we should do more of that, of like recognizable movies that maybe we haven't seen all the way through. Or we know the beats of them or something like that, but maybe we haven't dived into. That's why I mentioned Halloween in the last one, because, I've seen, it's like, I've been to Prague. Like, I've seen Halloween, but I didn't watch it with the attention to detail that it shows.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if there's a movie like that on my list right now that I just hate and everybody loves, and I can't think of one right now. Like the classic one for me was Pan's Labyrinth, and having seen it in the last couple of years or whatever, I was like, yeah, you know what? I wasn't giving this movie its fair due. And so now I'm completely turned around on that movie. But I can't think of anything right now that is like that for me. I'm going to have to think about that, because I'd love to do that. Yeah. I'd love to go back and watch something that didn't have Midsummer is a recent one.
Yeah, I would love for you to watch that without people talking.
But I mean, that was going to happen anyway. That wasn't something that was going to last for like, years and years. And I just hate that movie. I know I need to see that one again, especially the circumstances that I watched it under. So,
did you ever see The Deer Hunter twice?
Oh, I've seen The Deer Hunter 3 times.
Have you really?
Yeah. So now that might be another one that I can give one more chance and see. But I'm still of the mind that Deer Hunter, I think people like Deer Hunter because of the Christopher Walken Russian roulette scene more than anything. And that's what people go away with. Boy, that was intense. But like there was 2 hours and 30 minutes of yawning before that.
Yeah, so I understand what you're. I love that 2 hours and 30 minutes, but I see what you're saying about that one.
2 hours and 30 minutes of yawning was the original title of Welcome to Marwin.
Have you seen that?
Yeah,
I've seen it on cable showing up, and I've got it on Blu-ray, obviously. And I'm like, this is the type of movie that I like to just pop in every once in a while. Like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty was one of those.
This
pop in
wants to be that, but no.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost more depressing than my life. Like
Oh God!
it starts out like he was like a victim of this massive trauma beatdown, and he escapes by creating. Well, he takes photographs of these really detailed model. 6-inch tall. You've seen the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I can say about this
Well, and
movie.
apparently the documentary about that guy is amazing.
Which doesn't surprise me
So I'm gonna
because
have to
this
find
seems to be what Zemeckis is doing these days. Is like, that was a great documentary. Let me dramatize it and make a worse version.
Oh yeah,
Because he did it with that
the
walk on the walk on the wire. Joseph Gordon.
Walk on the wire. Step on the shore.
Toad the Wet Sprocket. That's the only Toad the Wet Sprocket song you'll ever hear played on the radio anymore, by the way.
No, All I Want is still on there.
Okay. Maybe All I Want. But still.
But I like Walk on the Water a lot better.
I like Toad the Wet Sprocket. They had like 3 really great albums in the 90s.
I do too.
yeah.
Hey, one more.
Away.
Have you watched Scarface multiple times?
Yeah.
You have?
But that's another movie that I could give another chance at some point.
I didn't know if you'd only seen that once, because I know you don't like it.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it more than once?
No.
I think I've seen Scarface at least twice, but 3 times is possible.
Okay.
But yeah, it's another one that I could probably put on the list as watch again. Because, I love Brian De Palma movies. I like his shitty movies.
Mm-hmm.
And Oliver Stone writing it and Al Pacino at his Pacinoiest.
Yep.
I should love it, but something about it has always kept me from loving it.
That's interesting.
Especially that fucking scene with his sister and friend getting married behind his back.
I agree.
That scene infuriates me.
You know what, though? Because I watched this again a few nights ago, actually. It pays off in such a weird way, in such a, I think, De Palma-y way. Because she comes up right before that big battle that Spielberg filmed, with all the Colombians coming up. She comes into his office when he's got that big mound of cocaine and seduces him.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's over the top because I think the movie's on drugs at that point. And so it's kind of like amped up. But she's just like, is this what you want? Because she's completely grief stricken and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio does a great job in kind of being a little like vulnerable and just having no clue what to do.
Yeah.
It is due to a very stupid decision, like, hey, surprise!
Yeah.
You murderous son of a bitch!
Yep. Man, talk about crushes. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, man.
Yes, indeed. I don't like her Cuban accent, but I like her.
Right.
She's very good in that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. It is time to talk about BetterHelp again.
BetterHelp. So we've had a good experience with this.
Ooh.
We've talked a lot about this service. It's an online counseling service that you can integrate with your home computer. I believe you can do it with other devices, where you get matched up with a therapist or a counselor, and you can have access to really, from the comfort of your own home, like really high-level counseling. I've found it awesome. I found the convenience awesome. Jonathan, who's our colleague, has used it and said it's fantastic for him. But really haven't heard a whole lot from people, the listeners. We've seen a few like subreddit posts and stuff like that. But we got a really, really, really nice email from a listener that really surprised and almost got me choked up on this. And I want to just read this real quick. It's long time lurker / watcher / podcast fan from Australia. So first up, thanks for your efforts and all that stuff. Secondly, I wanted to say thank you for recommending BetterHelp. A few years back, I started suffering from anxiety, and I got to the point where I was so crippled that she had a nervous breakdown. She had then stopped going to therapy. She went to therapy for a while, live therapy, and found some benefit, but then stopped it and kind of got back into, some anxiety and some depression and all that stuff. After hearing us talk about BetterHelp, she signed up for the service through our thing, betterhelp.com/SinCast, and she's having a good experience with it. She's in Australia. She looked it up to see if they could match her with somebody.
Awesome.
They could. This is an international thing.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know if it's specific to your area, but check on it and let us know too. And she's having a good experience with it. And it's amazing that somebody halfway around the world can have a similar experience as what I've experienced, because it's been so positive. It's been so convenient. It's been so just eye-opening. And to see this happening for other people, especially outside of our comfort zone, outside of the U.S., was really, really cool. Really cool to read.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I had lunch, this is how far we have to go. I had lunch with a very, very good friend I hadn't seen in 10 years earlier this week. And said something about anxiety. And this friend of mine, who I care about deeply and who cares about me, said, I feel like anxiety is just people who worry too much. And I decided not to spend the entirety of the lunch, schooling him.
Yeah.
But I did briefly explain, no, it's really not that. It's there's people who don't have firsthand experience with mental health issues or don't have a loved one or friend that does. There's a lot of ignorance out there and a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, even before BetterHelp came along, we've always been advocates for mental health. Because you got to end those stigmas and you got to educate people.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that BetterHelp is there, that they think therapy is this one set thing. I go to this stuffy office, I pay through the nose, there's weird art on the walls, and I'm uncomfortable. And BetterHelp is changing all of that. You don't have to leave your home. They match you up with professionals who are usually in your area. They can help if cost is a problem. And then it's totally flexible on how do you want to do this therapy? Do you want to do it video call? Do you want to do it phone call? So I think it breaks down a lot of barriers between people and therapy. And we hopefully will continue to see more and more people using this service like this gal.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to say on that is, in my personal experience, I didn't know exactly, because I've read a bunch of textbooks, I've taken a bunch of classes, I've seen a lot of people with different. And it's not, depression is not one thing. Depression is a lot of different things,
yeah.
And it can manifest in different ways. Mental illness in general can manifest in a lot of ways. And what we had to do, me and my therapist, we had to define what was going on before we could do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that definition process takes some work to get through. Your anxiety doesn't look like somebody else's anxiety.
Right.
Some people think personally that their anxiety is them worrying too much. Oh, if I could just stop worrying so much, I'd be fine. It's not like that.
Yeah.
And so you have to define that before you can do anything about it. And just conceptually, even I, who had seen it so much, forgot that step. I was like, all right, well, let's go. Let's let the healing begin, as in Good Will Hunting. So yeah, this is a great service. We can't recommend it enough. If you go to betterhelp.com, betterhelp, HELP.com/SinCast, you get 10% off your first month of service, and that ain't nothing. Yeah, that works out, right?
It does.
That's something.
That's something.
You get the feeling. You get the feel for
you
you.
get the feel for it. So yeah, it really is. If you're having issues with the financial part of this, ask them about it. They're very, very easy to work with when it comes to that. Don't let that be an impediment to signing up with this. Really, just at least give it a shot if you need it. They treat all sorts of issues: addiction, stress management, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. Sign up today if you need it. BetterHelp.com/SinCast. We love it. We love it.
All right, so we're going to do some questions and answers, Q&As.
I want the truth.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I'm listening.
Yeah, baby. I like this run of questions. So let's roll up our sleeves and take out our sacks and
All right. Cradle the balls and
Yes.
everybody in position.
What is it? There's a Dave Chappelle thing where he's like, where they're talking about the cops and everything. It's like, all right, spread your butt cheeks and lift your sack. Did you hear me? Did you hear me, man? I said, I said, spread open your butt cheeks and lift your sack.
Oh my God. Okay. What are some of the biggest jokes that fall flat for you in good movies? Some where you don't even understand the punchline. My example is the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movie, Paul. It's interesting. I wouldn't call that a good movie, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's some people who like that. It's got kind of a cult following.
At the end, it is revealed that a character's name is Lorenzo Zoil, and this is given a full beat in the movie. It is simply a reference to Lorenzo's Oil, a movie that has nothing to do with this one. I don't remember that part being in there, but it's an interesting question. Jokes in otherwise good movies that fall flat for you.
Wasn't Lorenz Tate in Lorenzo's Oil? Sorry, I just wanted to make that alliteration joke.
You know what? Now I have to look it up because
that's all about.
That'd be awesome if he was.
Them finding the cure for their kid.
I don't know. I don't think I ever saw Lorenzo's Oil.
He is not.
Well. Damn. So I wrote down an answer. I'll give that answer in a minute, but I just realized the jokes that fall flat for me are, how do I say this? When ad-lib comedians just stammer. Kevin Hart in Central Intelligence, Melissa McCarthy in half Melissa McCarthy movies, where they think it's like Kevin Hart specifically in Central Intelligence has like two scenes where it's like, and like his exasperated noises are supposed to be funny just because, and they're not. They're not.
Yeah. That's Brad Pitt. What is that?
In Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Sat at that table where you say to that kid's parents, I know, and I know, and I know, and you don't.
No, I completely agree because and you know what? Unfortunately, those antics do make a lot of people laugh because there's the whole humor from not being able to know what to say, and you're Kevin Hart, so you're doing it, so you're funny.
Yeah. Hey, look, everybody, it's Kevin Hart, and he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I know. It's almost like they're trying to. I just recently watched Elf, and Bob Newhart does his Bob Newhart stuff, his Papa Elf, where he's stammering even on like very simple sentences. And I find it endearing just because I kind of grew up with it. But like, I think that's the type of mannerism
but that's
that
timing.
Comedians are trying to
I was going to say, that's comic timing.
I think that they're trying to do that, but they're ending up with this flailing about thing, and people like the flailing about in a different way.
Yeah. This is where Jeremy is coming from on the Kevin Hart, and who was the other one?
Melissa McCarthy. Is they're struggling to find something to say that's funny, and they're caught in the middle of this like thing where hey, we're just going to run the camera and let you riff, and that's probably the best they could come up with at the time to stay within story and everything. Whereas Newhart is definitely doing that whole like he's trying to get that timing down, and that stammering comes from that. He knows what he's going to say.
Yeah.
Even in and out, he does that. I think a little.
Yeah.
It's part of his thing.
It's his thing. So
his thing. What did you write down?
I wrote down fart jokes, except for Finding Nemo. Which is the only one that ever made me laugh.
I will say it's become a meme since, but the one in George in the Jungle where he steps in the shit, I think, and they actually make a point in the movie to just sort of stop the movie dead and have the natives behind him. It's like, a man has stepped into the doo-doo. He's like, now this is the part of the movie where we hold our heads back and laugh. It may be the only funny thing that ever came out of George of the Jungle. Who knows?
What's her name was in that, though? My secret girlfriend who's married to Apatow.
Leslie Mann.
Yeah, she was in that.
Jean Triplehorn. It is interesting, by the way, and I don't know when that conversation about Jean Triplehorn, it might be outtakes, but Jean Triplehorn, like, you have some of these actors who are like, I've done nude scenes before, and now there's another movie calling for me to do it. I'm done with that shit. It's interesting to me because you'd think, you've already done it. Why not do it again? And
Emilia Clarke on Game of Thrones had the full journey. She did nudity in season 1, had stunt nudity for the middle seasons, and by season 5 or 6, she decided, and for her, it was like an empowering thing. I'm going to take ownership of this, and she did her own nude scene.
Yeah,
interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where she was new on the scene, and that's all people ever asked her about.
Yeah.
And I think she wanted to say, look, I'm more than that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even being on that successful, like that would get so fucking old.
oh, so fucking annoying.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'm also going to stretch the definition of good with mine. But I think the spirit of this question doesn't require the movie to be good. I don't think. But Basketball is a movie that I find hilarious in many instances. Obviously, there are moments in there that are not so hilarious. But I was thinking about this movie. There's a couple of points where I don't think it does well, and I'll tell you why. The psych outs, for instance, are supposed to be funny, I guess. And I don't even understand much about it. Like the psych outs in Basketball. So if you're not familiar with the movie, they're playing a basketball hybrid where the players just sort of decide whether or not they're going to hit a single, a double, a triple, or a home run, and they shoot a basketball behind the corresponding lines. And what the defense is doing is they're trying to psych out their opponent so that, if they miss, they get points for being a psych out or whatever. And so I didn't ever understand. Like, it seems like every time the player is unsuccessfully psyched out, they hit the basket.
Yeah.
Like, what if they're not psyched out and they throw it and whatever? Yeah. There's one in particular, though. I mean, like, nearly all the psych outs in that movie are not funny at all. None of them. Yeah. I mean,
the only one that got me was the Cartman impression.
See, and I'm about to do the Cartman one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Cartman one itself is might be funny, but the way they punctuate it makes it fall flat for me.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a guy who's about to go up and try to hit a home run, quote unquote, and they need him to miss. And Trey Parker, because this is in the height of South Park being a thing and everything, of course he has to do a Cartman voice, and he's like, I don't know, why don't you, like, Squeak tells him, why don't you tell him he's fat? And he's like, dude, that's not cool. And he's like, I don't know. And he goes over, and Trey Parker does this, hey, you guys, I'm fucking fat. Hey, you guys, I'm fucking fat. And all that. And this psychs the guy out completely, and he misses and everything. He misses so badly that he falls to the ground. And the ground shakes.
Oh, yeah.
And while Trey Parker's in the middle of this Cartman thing, it's like, oh, we know we indulged a little bit too much there. Let's cut him off while he's doing his Cartman thing. There's a thing that movies do where they cut themselves off. Like, if you're going to go Cartman, go full Cartman. Just let him continue doing the thing. Don't make Trey Parker fall down too.
Oh, yeah.
So they're basically interrupting their own joke when they do that. They're basically saying, yeah, we know we shouldn't have gone there. We should have just left the South Park out of this. I'm pretty sure that's why he gets knocked to the ground, because they're cutting him off. And I don't like that. I think that makes your joke shitty.
Yeah.
You should just let it breathe. Sometimes you need to cut. You cut on a perfect spot, and that's your joke and everything. In the same movie, Robert Stack does a great job doing unsolved mysteries again in Basketball. And there's a lot of shit he says that's hilarious in this. But there's a point in there where they're like, okay, so the unsolved mystery is, where did Coop go? The Trey Parker character. Where did Coop go? And they do these interviews. Matt Stone is like, hell if I know. He probably just hanged himself in his own fucking closet. And Robert Stack is like, scenario 1, he hanged himself in his own fucking closet. and it shows like a reenactment of it and everything. And then it goes to his girlfriend, Yasmin Bleeth. And she's like, if you want to find Coop, I suggest that you find the place where there's a never ending heinous exploitation of children. And Robert Stack is like, scenario 2, he went to Disney World. And so like, that's a good joke.
Yeah.
But instead of cutting to something else or continuing like that, he didn't say that. There's an eye dart. There's a head tilt. There's an acknowledgement that he said something real fucked up. And that makes the joke fall flat for me.
Yeah.
The joke itself is funny. He went to Disney World, and then you just keep going.
Yeah.
You don't say anything else. So to me, a lot of things have to do with timing and what you do in the middle of. That's why I don't like this is going to be very obscure. I brought something up like this in one of our old music video sims. It's that who is it? It's Ariana Grande with what's her name? Australian chick.
Iggy Azalea?
Iggy Azalea.
Oh, yeah, fancy.
Yeah. And there's a point where she does sort of a callback to Jay-Z and says, I got 99 problems and something, you know, bitch ain't one or something like that. And she goes, like what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, just own it. Don't say like what at the end of this. Just own that you're stealing that shit and move on. When you say that like what, you're just basically saying, I stole this shit. Now what? You know? And that's what it sounds like to me. Maybe that's not the intent, but to me, that's something that sort of ruins that moment. So that's why those things fall flat for me.
I believe that's Problem. I said it was fancy, but it's Problem.
Yeah, it is Problem. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Robert Stack because Robert Stack's bit in Beavis and Butthead Do America is funny at first, the deep body cavity search.
Yeah.
But they come back to that joke so fucking much.
It's done every time. Every time they arrest somebody.
We get it. And he's like deep and hard or thorough or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but yeah.
But Greg Kinnear's the one who sort of steals it in those scenes. He's the Bork character.
Yeah. He's like body cavity search, sir.
Yeah, there's a point where he comes up and goes, hey, you know that camper that the boys were whacking off in? He's like, Bork, you're a federal agent. You never end a sentence with a preposition. And then so he tries to say that later. You know that camper in Off They Were Whacking?
Yeah. That's awesome. Mine. So in Pulp Fiction, there's a couple of like jokes that I think are supposed to be jokes or witticisms that fall flat for me. Obviously, the whole Jimmy monologue in the kitchen that's supposed to be either shocking or funny or whatever it is ain't funny.
It's just
for a number of reasons.
It's 1994.
Correct.
Yeah.
I also have cringed every time that they do that whole "my name is this and this and this." The bartender is like, "My name's Paul, and this is between y'all." And then when they're in Brett's apartment, it's "My name's Pitt, and your ass ain't talking your way out of this shit."
Yeah.
And it happens a few more times in the thing, and I'm like, man. It's just Tarantino falling in love with his own thing.
I think it's Tarantino sort of trying to infuse his characters with some possibly non-witty things. I don't know if he likes them himself. It's possible. It's possible he loves those little jokes and everything. He loves those little things, but it also makes it sound when I've heard those things, and I have the same reaction to those as you do. It's that he's trying to infuse his characters with, they can't always be slick. They can't always have the right thing to say. So let's have them with some like really goofy thing. That's why you have like, don't be a square or rectangle.
That one at the end where he's like, I'm going to mess up her name, but he says like, say goodbye, Raquel. And she goes, goodbye, Raquel.
Yeah.
That always bugged the shit out of me.
Yeah. But that's something that when you're dealing with people you don't know, that's some random shit that they would say. To try to be funny. Like, I'm endearing. See, I know.
You may be right.
I tell jokes.
It's very writerly. And actually the next one I have is where you can tell that it's writerly, whether you can tell like the dialogue is being put into the mouth. The
last time I remember him doing that, and maybe he's done it since, but he's done a lot of period pieces since, so I don't really know if he's done it. But the last one I remember like that is in Kill Bill when Uma Thurman's about to fight Lucy Liu, and there's a point where it's like, silly rabbit, and they're like, tricks are for kids.
Oh, yeah.
That part. That's the last one I remember him really going deep on something where, let's give him something cheesy to say. Oh, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't like it.
We actually, we've discussed this amongst ourselves recently, but in The Shining, movie that I absolutely revere and adore, there's another moment where it's a jokey type of thing that you can tell is just overwriting, whether it's either from the book or from the screenplay or for both. But it's where Jack goes into the gold room and meets Lloyd, the phantom bartender. And, what will it be? And he's like, I like you, Lloyd. I've always liked you. You're the best damn bartender from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine. Or Portland, Oregon, for that matter. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's just such an awkward thing to say, because now he does this affectation when he's talking to Lloyd where he says the same thing twice all the time. Hair of the dog that bit me, Lord. Hair of the dog. You know, you can say that again. I forget the exact things, but he says things twice, and it annoys me. And it's the same thing with this Timbuktu to Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon, for that matter. Bullshit. Anyway, otherwise the movie's perfect.
You know, one of David Letterman's rules of comedy was that repetition equals laughs. Repetition equals laughs.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
And that's how he would do it.
well, that's what he would do is he would say something that wasn't funny, and it would die, and then he would go. He would say the same thing to Paul. They're saying blah blah blah, Paul. You know, yeah. Paul would say, that's what they're saying, and then people would start laughing, and then he would just keep bringing it back up.
Oh my
I
God,
miss Letterman.
I know.
Let's do another one. Here we go. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Halaj, SinCast.
Halaj.
Yeah, we probably totally fucked that up.
Halaj.
Halaj. I am born and raised in Denmark.
Ooh.
So when I watched The Danish Girl, I thought it was great and fun to see my small country being showcased in such a big movie production. But one thing I thought was stupid about it is that they portrayed the town Vejle, where Eddie Redmayne's character is from, as having a great lake surrounded by white-tinned mountains. It is not the case. Denmark is pretty much a pancake. I know it was a conscious choice for the director, but I still think they could have filmed it maybe not in Vejle, but in Denmark.
Vejle.
I'm looking this up to see if there's a pronunciation somewhere because God, I hate it when we fuck these things up so badly. You know, I feel bad that we do that, you know.
We're doing it with all respect and all that
sure.
stuff. We're doing our best here. So the question is, are there movies that you have watched where you have thought it didn't represent a country, city, town as it really is by filming in another place using a green screen when they may have just filmed it in the right place?
Oh.
The nitpicking, grumpy Dane.
I completely misunderstood this question.
Yeah, I mean, does it have to be green screen?
No.
I mean,
I don't think so. Just something for another thing.
Look, I lived in New York for 3 years. I'm not an expert of New York or anything like that, but I do know that when I see certain things, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like I didn't know where that fucking stairway was in Joker. I mean, that's in the Bronx. I went to the Bronx twice while I was out there.
To see Yankee games?
Yeah, I saw a Yankee game and I went to the zoo, I think, once. And so, like, so there's some things that I don't know, but when it comes to like driving around Manhattan or Queens or anything like that, when people do stuff, it's just like, no, that's goddamn impossible. Yep. And recently in John Wick 3, there's a part like at the beginning where he's looking to get some like first off, he wants to go to the public library. He's from John Wick 2. He has run from Central Park to Times Square, which is not the time that it took him. I can deal with that. Mm-hmm. But then he gets into a cab for some stupid reason to go to go to the library, and then the cab's like, it's obviously not going to go anywhere. So he leaves his dog there, tells him to take him to the hotel or whatever. He runs to the public library. Now he's got till 6 o'clock before everybody does the excommunicado and starts trying to kill him and everything. It's roughly 5:45, 5:50 or so. Once he gets to the library, he has to find this book. It's got all his fucking medallions and crosses and shit in it. And he gets in a fight with a dude. And then the next thing that we see is him running around Chinatown.
Oh. And
he's gone from the public library to Chinatown before 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think any of this is possible no matter what's happened. But he must have made a run that is probably a good 30 minutes to an hour in 5 minutes.
Chinatown is southwest of the librry, right?
I don't know about that, but it's lower Manhattan.
It's
the public library is in downtown or central, whatever, and then downtown is where Chinatown is, and so like it's insane. So like there's a lot of movies that do this. They're like, you know, they could be in Harlem and they're like, oh, let's go to the Brooklyn Bridge, and they're right there, and everything. So there's a lot of that, but. I lived in Queens, and it's amazing to me watching movies that talk about Queens in a certain way that like it's some small burg of some sort. I don't know what, or a neighborhood or whatever. In Coming to America, there's a scene where they get he and Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall get to the airport. They get in a cab. I think they go to JFK. I'm not sure which one. Either way, it doesn't matter if they're in LaGuardia or JFK. They're in Queens at that point. They get in the cab and they ask the cab driver, "Could you take us to Queens?" And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, we can take you anywhere. They could take you. There's a lot of they're looking for some average place in Queens or something very average." He's like, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of that here in Queens. I can take." And there's no what city or anything. There's a million cities in Queens. You can go to the Queens is huge.
There's actual townships or cities in Queens.
I lived in a place called Fresh Meadows. There was the Mets play in a place called Flushing. That's where the U.S. Open is. There's Long Island City. There's Astoria. There's a million different places. There's Jamaica, which is where 50 Cent's from. Mm-hmm. All of these are cities, little towns in Queens. So when somebody says, I'm going to go to Queens, that's a huge fucking place. And it does it in Usual Suspects when they're grilling Kevin Pollak and they're like, "I can put you on Queens and they put you in Queens in the night of the robbery." And he goes "Oh, really? I live in Queens. You got a bunch of monkeys running around the clock on this thing and whatever." And it's you might live in Queens, but that's a huge fucking place. So for the cops to be able to put you there is stupid. And that you live there doesn't have anything to do with anything either. Yeah. So it's one of those things. So I think they get New York wrong a lot. I don't think if you're making a movie though, that you have to concern yourself with all these things. Yeah. But there are, people from New York and people who have spent a lot of time in New York are going to be like, "What the fuck? This doesn't make sense."
Yep.
Yeah, that's goofy. I have no good answers for this. I really don't. I'm going to cheat. And I think I've even talked about this on the podcast before, but anytime the Titans play prime time, the telecast going to commercial and coming back to commercial just shows you Broadway and Second Avenue, and honky tonks and the boot shop and the cowboy hats and the woo girls and the pedal taverns and it gives what is an extremely false picture of Nashville. I understand why they do it. Those are some of the most known things about Nashville, is birthplace of country music, yada, yada. But the city is super liberal compared to what you would expect country music city USA to be. Huge rock scene. I hate whenever they pigeonhole the city that way, because the city I fell in love with has very little to do with country music.
It's like if you were to go and do a New York sportscast and show just Times Square.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Or it's very similar to movies or in shows when the cast goes to London and we see Big Ben and Parliament and the Ferris wheel.
Right.
And it's just an easy way. I think it even makes sense from a production standpoint to just subconsciously show the audience that where we're at now.
Plus this is the lazy part of it too, right? It's the closest that they can get to Nashville City proper.
Yeah.
They don't want to go out to the outreaches and go to an Exit In or something like that, because it's right across the river is Second Avenue and Broadway and all that. So it's easy for them to, "Hey, take a truck down there, take a camera down there. We'll show all that." And they don't have to go anywhere that anybody hasn't seen before. So,
and also the famous Percy Jackson sin for where they turn the wrong way trying to go to the Parthenon.
Mine is no surprise to be Chicago based, because there's same problems that we have with geography in New York as in Chicago. It feels like you can just pop over anywhere in Chicago. And Chicago is a pretty big city.
Yeah.
And not that easy to get around. The classic one is When Harry Met Sally, where they're driving north on Lakeshore Drive from University of Chicago instead of going south the way they should be going. But my big thing, heretical thing, is with Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because in order for them to accomplish all the stuff that Ferris needs to do, they have to really seriously play with some geography. Now, some of it makes perfect sense. When they go to Little Italy and they do Abe Fromm and the Sausage King and all that stuff, and they park the car and all that stuff, and even when they go to the art museum, that all is in the same area. But in between that, First of all, they go
to
down, then
Wrigley,
they go
don't they?
back all the way to like fucking Winnetka or whatever it is. Then they come back down. Then they go to Wrigley, which is by definition, let's see, that's 60. So it's like 4 miles away. Take in ostensibly an entire Cubs game. And then come all the way back down to do the parade thing in not Bridgeport, but around the downtown
And when
area.
you say 4 miles, like to people out in the country, that sounds like not a long drive.
Right.
But in a city, 4 miles is like 30 miles.
Yes.
That's like 45 minutes.
Yes. And it's just ridiculous how they cram all that stuff in there. I'm glad they do, but I can tell I'm like, oh man, that's some bullshit. Anyway.
Yeah.
Did I have one more? Oh, it is funny that we have to say something about like how often stuff is filmed in Canada that's supposed to be in the U.S., particularly Vancouver and Toronto. And I remember watching, even back in the day, Rumble in the Bronx, having never been to New York, having, no experience with the Bronx or whatever, knowing that doesn't look right because there's like mountains in the background and shit like that. And that was filmed in Vancouver. So Oh, I like this one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. My question is this. What would be the worst or best change to a movie if you swapped two actors of the same first name?
I tell you what, you can find way more worst than you can find best.
Oh, totally.
I sat there for fucking hours trying to think of a best on this.
I didn't. I just wrote
Well,
worst
yeah,
only.
Jeremy definitely didn't. I was doing mine when his came in, and I was like, the fuck is he doing? So, Jeremy, yeah, go ahead. Do yours.
Christian Slater is the Dark Knight.
This is your best?
No, they're both worst. So I didn't come up with any bests. The other one was Tom Selleck as Forrest Gump.
Okay. All right. Yeah, now that one, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's think about this, though. Christian Slater. There's actually, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter. It's been going around the screen tests for The Dark Knight or for Batman Begins.
Oh, yeah?
And Cillian Murphy is shown playing Bruce Wayne and Batman. Another guy that plays a character, I forget what it is, in Batman Begins, is doing Bruce Wayne and Batman, and then Bale doing that thing too. And it's amazing that Cillian Murphy was an awesome Batman, but a shitty Bruce Wayne.
Huh.
And the other guy was an awesome Bruce Wayne, but a shitty Batman. And then it was the Goldilocks thing of just right. I mean, are we positive that Christian Slater could not do that?
Yes.
Why? It's not like Bale is excellent, but is Bale the best part of those movies?
No, but can you imagine Slater even just not being? And Slater has the capability of just being a kind of a serious actor.
Yeah.
It's like most of the things that we've seen him in, he definitely has all that, he's got always have that Christian Slateriness about him.
He's got that sound.
Yeah, he's got that sound. And so like to hear him, I'm imagining him in the scene in The Dark Knight where he and Aaron Eckhart and Maggie Gyllenhaal are all there, and he's got the model girlfriend, and they're talking about heroes, and you live long enough to be the villain and all that. I can't imagine Christian Slater in that scene at all.
Now, I haven't watched Mr. Robot. Have you guys watched that at all?
I have not, no.
Apparently, he's gotten very good reviews for that performance.
Rami Malek?
No,
or Christian Slater?
Christian Slater has. In fact, he won a Golden Globe for it.
Really?
Yeah. And so maybe I haven't even seen him do anything recently.
Yeah.
But
he's like been a voice on Archer and stuff like
that's
that.
right. Yeah. I don't know. I've always been a fan. I think he could pull off Bruce Wayne, despite what you just said. And I think pulling off Batman is probably a little bit easier than you think. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I'm taking this way too seriously.
You definitely are,
Yes.
especially since my Tom Selleck Forrest Gump was way funnier than Christian Slater as Batman.
Yeah.
That would be fucking
Magnum
great.
PI doing Forrest Gump quotes.
With or without the mustache?
With. It's gotta be with. It's gotta be with.
I mean, obviously we can't think of this because we don't. I mean, he could go in there and kill it for all we know.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine him being in that role. But no, I mean, there's of course Batman, and whoever plays Batman is never what the movie. It's never the success of that movie. It's always the villains.
Yeah.
And I don't see. I mean, every time there's a big uproar about who's Batman and everything, I'm like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Jeremy's came in while I was writing mine. I had Tom Cruise instead of Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump.
As your worst, right?
Yeah, as my worst.
Oh my god!
And
Hold on.
I'm so
the whole affectations and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh god!
It has to all be there.
I was sitting there thinking though, like there's very few roles that either one of them could switch on, and it would make any sense. You can't put Tom Hanks in Top Gun
or Mission Impossible
or Far and Away.
He's all ripping off his shirt and like ready to.
I feel like Tom Cruise would be way too intense as Forrest Gump. He'd be like,
Yeah.
Mama always told me life was like a
Oh yeah, he would be driven.
It would be a simple Jack performance.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
Make my eyes red.
Like I can't even see Cruise in Philadelphia. There's only like one movie, maybe Road to Perdition, that he could possibly have pulled off the Michael character. And that would have reunited Cruise and Newman from Color of Money.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But that's the only one I could think of at the top of my head that they could actually switch, and you wouldn't lose much.
What about Apollo 13? You would definitely lose something.
Lovell's more of an everyman.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Cruise can pull off everyman.
Or
Cruise would have been the Bill or the is it Bill Paxton who doesn't get to go? No, it's
Gary
Sinise.
Sinise.
He would have played that role in that movie.
What about
Ken
the Da
Mattingly?
Vinci Code?
Oh yeah, Da Vinci Code.
Well, he could pull off the hairstyle. He's got half the performance done.
Oh yeah. But
man.
as far as my best, like I said, I took a long time, and it ended up probably not being the best one that I could come up with. But I was sitting there like, okay, what about this movie? I mean, that person's kind of perfect, or that person has no name like anybody else's name. You know, there's a lot of the actresses I went through. I was like,
Yeah.
there's not very many Angelinas out there.
Meryls.
Lupitas.
Or Chiwetel.
Yeah. Not many of those. So
I think Chiwetel Johnson in 12 Years a Slave.
Right,
would have been
right.
Awesome.
But I ended up on, I think this is a good one, Ben Mendelsohn instead of Ben Affleck in Argo.
Oh.
The only thing that feels like drags Argo slightly down, and it's not that Ben Affleck's bad, it's just that the idea of him, I don't know, something about him in that movie puts me off sometimes.
I could dig it.
And I'd rather him just be directing the movie. And you put Ben Mendelsohn in, and they're about the same age. It seems weird to say that, but they're about 2 years apart. So, like, I think he would be better suited to be in that. I don't know, something about Ben Affleck in that movie, rubs me the wrong way.
Well, it's a great film, but he's the worst part of it.
Yeah.
And it may just be a function of, I think he conceived his character as sort of an everyman, and so he gave all the juicy shit to Cranston and John Goodman, and so his character doesn't really have an arc.
He's just the hero,
he's just there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking about this the other day because I watch Gone Baby Gone and The Town pretty regularly, especially when one of the movie channels has them on. And I don't think his presence hurts The Town the way it does in Argo.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. I think he's indelible to The Town. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he's playing in real life, Affleck is not a criminal, but his character's much closer to Affleck in that he's
definitely.
a Boston, Charleston, whatever kind of guy. But anyway.
No, I agree. I think in The Town he has to be in that. He seems right in there. Argo, he always seems out of place, and I can't figure it out.
And he would be out of place in Gone Baby Gone too if he had taken that role.
Oh my God!
too.
Yeah.
Casey was the perfect.
If I see you again, I'm going to get discourteous on your ass.
I'll go for my best first because I've always, my love for Tombstone, and I love Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday is perfect. Sam Elliott as Virgil is perfect. Kurt Russell is very, very good as Wyatt Earp. I don't think the screenplay serves him all that well sometimes, but Bill Paxton's character has always bothered me in that movie because I love Bill Paxton. He's great in stuff like Frailty. He's great in stuff like Aliens, but he's typically got kind of a goofy side to him, especially in this early 90s type of area. And so his performance has always bothered me. And so I'm cheating a little bit, but I would replace him with Bill E-Bob Thornton.
Dude! After you finish this, I have to explain a subtitle thing that's in Dolomite that is unbelievable. But go
nice.
ahead.
It would be easy to replace him because he's in the movie.
I was going to say, isn't he in that movie?
He's in the movie. He's the guy that's causing all the get that goddamn cigar smoke out of my face. He's in the gambling parlor when Wyatt Earp first walks in.
Yeah.
And that's the one that Wyatt Earp, he goes up to him and he's like, skin that smoke wagon and see what it gets you. When he's trying to reach for his gun, skin it, boy. And then he starts smacking him. And he doesn't do anything. He smacks him again. He starts bleeding. He's like, you can do anything, or you can just stand there and bleed. And nice. Billy Bob stands there and bleeds. And then Wyatt Earp buys the place. But Billy Bob, man, he could bring some fucking Western like gravitas to that Morgan role because he's the one that gets shot and dies, and he's got that line where it's like, you know how people say that they see a white light? It ain't true. I don't see a goddamn thing. When Bill Paxton says that, he's doing it almost with a smile on his face. Billy Bob Thornton could fucking crush that scene.
Yeah.
So that's my best.
I recently saw Monsters Ball again. He's so good in that.
He's such a good actor. I don't tend to like him personally. There's just some sort of weird thing with me.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I know in like interviews in the past, he comes off a little bit, standoffish and
Sean
gruff.
Penny.
Yeah, Sean Penny. That's a good description.
My worst is Amy Adams replaced with Amy Schumer.
Yeah.
In Arrival.
Oh God! And of course, it becomes a completely different movie.
No.
Now listen, this is jokey. I agree, but it's also like not totally a laugh thing because she does have a film career now. Between the vagina thing, is it Snatched?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a vagina thing though. It was about kidnapping.
Well, but wasn't it about snatches?
No, it was just that was the name.
Her mom get kidnapped.
It's the dirty sounding name.
Yeah,
they gave it.
Okay. And then what was the I Feel Pretty was the other
I Feel
one,
Pretty.
Right? And then she was great in Trainwreck, but she was playing herself essentially. So yeah, I mean, imagine Amy Schumer with all of that gravitas that has to be on Amy Adams' role in fucking Arrival.
I know.
And then replace Jeremy Renner with Jeremy Davies.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
I was just trying to. I was going for a thing there.
And replace Forrest Whitaker with Forrest Gump.
Frederick Forrest.
It was funny in my brain.
I like it. I like your brain. What is the Dolomite thing?
There's a part of the beginning where I think it's Snoop Dogg puts on a Sly and the Family Stone record, and there's the I want to thank you for letting me be myself and all that. So I have the subtitles on, and I watched this whole movie. There is absolutely no other like weirdness that happens in this movie except during the Sly and the Family Stone thing. So I'd like to thank you for letting me, which they spell out in one complete word, for letting me be myself, which is just be myself, but they spelt it mice elf.
That's fucking weird.
Be mice elf.
Nice.
So like you're sitting there like, is that what Sly and the Family Stone meant when they made that song? I'd like to thank you for letting me be mice elf.
Yeah. That'd be
what
hilarious.
the hell?
That's weird. That sounds like something like YouTube's automated voice technology would come up with.
Right. But you would also think that if that's the case, they would have fucked the whole movie up.
Yeah.
And then you would just be like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to watch this with subtitles then. But like that's the one spot where they were like, all right, I guess what he's saying is mice elf. I don't know what other word it could be.
I just pulled up the lyrics. It's exactly that.
Mice elf?
Mice elf. Again.
So they're just jokesters who made a song and then for their lyric sheet decided to be playful.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me, all one word, be mice elf again. AGI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drugs.
Either whoever made that is fucking with us, or Sly and the Family Stone is fucking with us.
Yeah. In fact, it's subtitled. Okay, this is Genius Lyrics, which I trust. It's subtitled, thank you, for letting me be mice elf again. You see that?
Yeah, it's like that Pearl Jam song, Daughter, where he says violins, but the lyric sheet says violence or violins, like gives you the choice.
Yeah.
Whatever you heard is right. Like, you fucking wrote the song. You know what you sang,
But
dumbass.
if you're going to let me be myself, that has no fucking meaning.
No, it does not.
No, it definitely doesn't.
It's
Sly fucking with you. It's Sly
Yeah.
fucking with you.
Fuck Sly. Fuck Sly. Sly only helps. Sly only hurts. It never ever helps.
Wow, I never knew that. We've all learned something today.
We have. You know what? And I went through that, and there's somebody out there who's listening who goes, no, that's exactly what the lyrics are.
Wow. Well, it's comforting to know that they were accurate. It's weird to know that that's the way that the lyrics are stylized.
Look, everything that we've looked up and referenced is wrong. Okay, and so I don't know what else to say.
It is weird because Prince, who worships Sly Stone, he used to do stuff like that, just misspell lyrics intentionally. Obviously, he did like the 4 and the 2 and U and stuff like that. Kurt Cobain used to do this too, actually. On the lyrics for "Rape Me," he would put like "hate me," but write it like HAIGHT.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, people are weird.
Hey, real quick, can we talk about Megan Thee Stallion?
Sure.
I feel like she added the second E because she definitely wanted everyone to pronounce the as the instead of the.
Yeah.
And once you add a second E, you change that word to a different word, and now your rap name makes no sense.
Right. It's basically saying Megan
U
Stallion.
Stallion.
Yes.
It's fucked up. It's stupid.
It's kind of like Led Zeppelin decided not to use the word LEAD. They didn't spell it that way because they felt like stupid Americans would call them Lead Zeppelin.
Well,
and
we are
they would. I mean, no, there's no doubt about it. We would have been calling them Lead Zeppelin. There's no doubt. I think the same thing happened with Def Leppard.
Oh, yeah?
And the Oneaters.
Because they were...
And the Oneaters.
Oh, excuse me, that's Oneaters.
You actually don't get enough credit for doing stuff like that on the fly in narration for like read and read and stuff like that.
Oh, well.
If it's not spelled out for you, because I think about phoneticizing like words or like names and stuff like that, but I don't think about read and read and lead and lead and stuff like that.
Context gives me most of what I need for those.
Yeah.
I think I've screwed a few of them up before, but anyway, I'm not going to call her Megan Thee Stallion. I'm actually going to call her Megan the Stallion.
You're not going to call her Megan Thee Stallion.
No.
Why?
Because that's dumb.
It's her name.
All right, well, I want you to call me Jeremy the Minotaur with 2 E's.
You are now that name now.
And 2 T's in Minotaur.
Yes.
This is the Aquafina thing all over again.
It really is.
I mean, you have the right to... First of all, I don't think she's legally changed her name to Megan Thee Stallion. It's a stage name, and I don't have to say a stage name.
Well, that's true.
Okay, that'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. I got a question, though, for some people. If we left Facebook, would some of you be upset?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm asking a question of you Facebook users. Should we go to Twitter? Should we do something else? I'm very strongly considering not being on Facebook anymore.
I understand.
But for now, we're on SinCast presented by CinemaSins. We'll be there for the foreseeable future. It's just that I'm slowly thinking maybe just get off of it after a few months or so.
I think we should get off all social media platforms.
Probably a good idea.
Because Twitter's a hot garbage. Like we should go to like TikTok or something like that, or Snap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move to a platform we're too old to understand.
Oh, yes. But we're also on CinemaSins Twitter. We've got a music video since Twitter. We're on SoundCloud. We have a Discord if you want to get on Discord. Traditionally, if you want to go onto Facebook and give me a private message, I will give you a link to that. But there's several places they can ask for links, and we can give them.
There's a link on the sidebar of the subreddit, too.
I did not know that, and that is extremely helpful to know.
The guys that manage that page are pretty awesome.
So they can go to the subreddit and just get an Insta link to it?
Just go scroll down. It'll be on the right side. There's a bunch of sin-related links there, and the Discord is like one of the top ones.
Yeah. So there you go. So we have a lot of places that you can come and talk about this very episode. Anyway, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Are you using it?
I got in it once, but because it's so fucking quiet out there, I bought a second hammock so we could go out there together.
You're going to be like that couple in the Cialis commercials.
With a glass of wine and a ceramic tub on the back patio.
Oh, yeah.
Never understood why that was such an indelible image where there's no physical possible way that they could have sex while sitting in a fucking bath looking at
And why is the
separate
tub
baths
out in the fucking field? Like, the tub is...
I don't know.
Did you carry a bunch of buckets to that tub?
It's weird. When Walton Goggins is introduced in The Righteous Gemstones, he's doing just that. Like, he's out there in a fucking bathtub in the middle of his yard.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, because it's a Danny McBride thing, like, his young bride comes out to towel him off and, like, big old cock right in the middle of the screen. And it's old cock, too.
Old cock.
Yeah. Walton Goggins himself isn't that old. I bet they grayed out some pubic hairs or something.
Right. Well, and I'm sure it's not his cock either.
You don't think it's his cock?
No. If it was his, they would have shown him full bodied. I think they put a stunt.
Did they not?
I think they put a stunt cock in there.
Oh, man.
I was like, I am disgusted, but also, that's a nice little detail.
Yeah. In case you were looking for it.
Seriously, I was like, wow. That is really.
You're saying the
attention to
continuity
detail.
girl did her job on that.
That's right.
She's like, hang on 1 second. Boop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to make sure that
She used
this
her
looks
finger.
authentic. Yeah. That's right. But yeah, I think Walton Goggins is like 48, something like that.
All right.
I think he's somewhere around there.
But regardless, that was a stunt cock.
I'm assuming it is, or else they would have shown him full bodied. It's just like any other kind of nudity that you see, where like if you see a woman on screen and she like pulls her shirt off and it's like, let's just shoot them from like down here.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually stunt.
Is this, do you think, its own industry, or are these just actors waiting for like an acting
I
gig?
think that's an industry.
You could be the stunt cock.
Yeah, I think you're like, oh, you've got nice breasts. You want to show them on screen for this person, and I think that's how that works.
Interesting.
I remember reading an interview from somebody who had, God, I can't remember if it was a Game of Thrones person, but somebody who had used a stunt double for nudity. And this is a famous actress, and she was talking about they let her choose. Like they showed her pictures.
Oh, that was Jean Triplehorn.
Okay,
and it was Waterworld.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Also, about the butt shot.
Yeah, the butt shot.
They let her choose which butt would be hers.
Yeah,
I would assume that happens quite a bit if you've got clout, Jean Triplehorn clout. Yeah. Like I think in Wanted, Angelina Jolie didn't do that nude shot while she was walking away because apparently she was too thin. She wasn't in the best health at that point. So I think she got to choose like who was in that scene.
Yeah, and it may not be an industry. It might not be a like organization that you call. You might just go to the strip club or something for all I know. But
could do. Well,
I'm assuming though that these people have some sort of union card or something like that to do the things that they do.
Even the men.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look,
the Screen Dick Guild. The SDA,
like the guy in Walk Hard that shows up and just has the dangling dick. Like, I wonder if he's like a recognizable character actor anywhere, or if he's the guy that's just like, I'm cool with showing my dick.
And man, in that movie, I wouldn't be surprised if that's like
Chris Parnell,
or even John C. Reilly's like college roommate, or somebody he knows, the key grip. Hey, you got a nice dick.
Yeah,
we need to get to the bottom of this.
We really do. We need to find like I was thinking. This shows my naivete, I guess, but I was thinking it was probably people who wanted to be models or actors, but had yet to break in either industry. And there's the guy who says, "Well, I can't give you this job, but." If you go down the hall, they're looking for some boobs for Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense for women that are attractive that have great hoo-has or whatever, right? But like
Yabos.
Yabos. Fucking Thora Birch.
Yeah.
That was a weird out of context.
Yes.
But yeah, like but like whenever you see Dick, it's usually not, unless it's Eric Dane, it's usually not like somebody who's all cut up in his torso. It's like the guy from Walk Hard or the Walton Goggins stand-in or whatever it is.
Or Jason, whatever, in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Jason Segel.
Oh, yeah.
That was real.
It was totally real.
That was, definitely him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you could make a decent money and say you're fine with it and you got a decent dick, and you can do double work consistently, not a bad living. Because nobody sees your face. They don't associate. It's like the Chappelle Show dick, where it's like, ma'am, I can't even pick out my own dick out of a lineup.
I think
my dick and me are like this.
Yeah. We might be overestimating the size of this particular industry, though, because it's not.
It may be like 3 guys.
It's not like there's a dick in every movie, and yeah, it may be like 3 guys and 6 women.
And they're all just like
it's probably way more women because
I know that
there's way more female nudity.
I know at the very, very end of Body Double, there's a scene where Dennis Franz is the director of this movie, and there's a woman taking a shower, and then of course the main guy in the movie is playing a werewolf or vampire or something, and he comes in through the bathroom window or something to attack her, and then there's a point where he's about to grab her, and he's like, okay, cut. And the normal actress who's just wearing a towel walks away, and then the girl with the boobs out comes in into the shower, and then it shows they continue the scene, and that's where he's like grabbing her and fondling her and all that and everything. And then they like show what the scene looks like afterwards when they cut it and everything. I have no idea why he ends the movie this way, but it's fun. I guess it's interesting. But they showed the actual actress in her face, and she's like, "Oh no, oh my god!" And then it would cut down to like, "Here's the nudity, and here's where he's grabbing her and everything." And then it would cut back to her, and she's like, "Oh no!"
My son's school fair thing last night, and there's a food truck that does barbecue, and normally those are just like warmed over, like fucking hotel pans or whatever it is. This guy had an open pit and was actually like doing shit on it. Oh, damn. And it smelled amazing. And he was doing these corn cake tacos with like brisket and like a little pickle spear in it.
Nice.
And they looked and smelled unfucking believable. But the line was so fucking long that I could not get in. All I could do is watch and smell it.
There are some limits, right? I'm not going to stand in line for an hour.
No.
No matter how good that bite of food is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make it myself.
There you go.
There is nothing,
smoker.
There is nothing in this world that is worth waiting that long in line for. Right
That's
now.
True.
That's true. I mean, I imagine if you took a big long trip just to go to that place, yes. But if you're a local, no.
Yeah.
You may see a line at Au Cheval for burgers in Chicago.
Yeah.
Even if we go on like a Tuesday or something like that, there's usually somewhat of a line. But like the Sunday afternoon line is ridiculous. Like people will wait an hour and a half for a burger.
Yeah.
And they'll love it.
I will not.
I will not either.
Like you got to weigh in this. Like how good is the burger and the wait? Like could you conceivably go to Wendy's and get a burger and it takes you 5 to 10 minutes, and will you have an equal experience out of that?
Yeah. Because you got to lower the flavor but increase the convenience.
Yeah.
And does that balance out? And typically it does.
For some people, though, it's about I don't even think it's about the burger. I think it's about being able to say you had the burger. If it's that popular that people stand in line, then it's part of the it crowd thing. It's I got to Instagram this burger so I can get 10 more followers.
That's
and
right.
Shit. And me, I'm over at Wendy's.
Yeah.
I'm at Five Guys going, your burger is like 1% better than this one, and I waited no time at all.
Yeah.
You actually say that to the cash person?
No.
You know what, sir? Your burger.
Hannibal Buress.
I want to congratulate you on your
Hannibal
burger.
Buress has a bit sort of like that, talking about this. He says he's like, oh, there's this great Thanksgiving Day sale at it's 35% off and everything, and it's like, but you have to be there at 6 a.m. He's like, well, to me that negates the deal.
Exactly.
And scene.
Did you ever act, by the way?
Yeah.
Did you do acting exercises like that? Maybe not that pretentious, but where you had to get yourself to a scene and then do like
we did.
It's basically like I'm done. You
know?
I did plays in college. I did 3 of them. I did Trip to Bountiful. I did Arsenic and Old Lace, and I did Diary of Anne Frank.
Who were you in Diary of Anne Frank?
I was her dad. I was
Otto
Frank.
Too in high school play.
That's the last line in the play. And if you don't land that sucker, she puts me to shame is the line. And if you don't land it, nobody in the audience gets the feels.
Exactly.
It was very much pressury. Dicer was in that with me.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, we did energy circles. Our drama teacher was all about energy circles. So 20 minutes before the play, underneath the stage, gather and grab hands, and you just start chanting. You're on the ground. You squat down, and you go, energy, energy. And you slowly stand up as you get louder and louder and louder, and you're screaming at the end. I'm sure it's just a simple mind hack, but then everybody's all like jazzed the fuck up to go out and give a good
like
show.
that. We should do that before podcasts.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing energy circles with you guys.
Should. Sorry, it's a requirement to be on the podcast now.
What do they do in Jay and Silent Bob? They're Matt Damon and Ben Affleck like lion face,
Yeah.
lemon face,
Right, yeah.
lion face,
Yep.
lemon face.
That is what they do.
That's hilarious.
Oh Jesus,
Chucky,
Christ.
it's hunting season.
You know, I this is way off the subject, but I tweeted about this because I heard on the way home from podcasting, I heard Blaze of Glory.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard Blaze of Glory in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Blaze of Glory, of course, was the theme song for Young Guns 2.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, is Blaze of Glory a better Young Gun song than Wanted Dead or Alive? And I actually tweeted this because I actually kind of like both songs, but I like Blaze of Glory better.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was reminded Wanted Dead or Alive was not on the Young Guns 1 soundtrack.
Right.
But I mean, that's so fucking Young Guns.
Yeah.
And then he comes back for fucking
I
Blaze
think
of Glory and all that
That's
shit.
probably why he was asked to do the song for Young Guns 2
Yeah.
was because of that other song. So.
Yeah. That
Wanted
Young
Dead or
Guns
Alive.
2 soundtrack is boss, man.
Yeah, what else is on it?
I don't know. But I had it, and I listened to the shit out of it. I'll have to look it up, but I remember it being good.
Oh, man.
Oh, there's a smaller one?
Yeah.
I thought they only made it in...
Looks like this size.
Oh, I thought they only made it in the bigger size.
No.
Well, you should get the bigger size.
Well, if I get the bigger size, I'll drink it all. Well, once I get a couple
totally
glasses of wine in me, I lose all
Whoa,
inhibition.
There's so much more in here.
It's called managing my alcohol intake.
Yeah, that's crazy. By the way, I was reading about that. God, what was I reading about Paul Thomas Anderson and Tom Cruise for Magnolia? Because the relationship between Tom Cruise and Jason Aidan Quinn, is it? Who's the old Jason Robards?
Jason Robards.
Jason Robards mimics the whole thing with Tom Cruise and his actual father so perfectly.
Yeah.
And apparently P.T. Anderson didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's saying, and that's what Tom Cruise is saying,
That's
too.
crazy.
I mean, like, estranged, like, you know, successful guy, the son becomes successful, estranged for years and years and years and years, visits on their deathbed and reconciles. I'm like, he's like, how did you know this? And he's like,
nuts.
I didn't. I'm like, God damn, that's
Yeah.
kind of odd.
It's freaky.
It's very freaky, man.
Yes.